You'd be surprised. Success is oftentimes the result of a person who is passionately in love with their purpose and pursuing it with all of their heart, mind, soul, and strength. In 1686, Isaac Newton specified that any object that continues doing whatever it is currently doing, that it'll keep on doing it unless it is acted on by some external force. It's interesting. In other words, Isaac Newton's theory basically says that an object in motion stays in motion and an object at rest stays at rest unless some external force acts on it. It has to be wind resistance and brakes applied or something that then stops the moving thing. But if you leave all things constant with no external force acting on it, if an object is in motion, it'll stay in motion. If you drop something and it falls to the ground, it'll stay in motion unless the ground interrupts that, an external force. You see, so whatever is set in motion in your life, unless there's an external force, it'll keep on doing it. So if your life today is not acted on by an external force, you will keep on in the direction where you're headed. Unless an external force, there has to be a divine intervention. You know how many folks have a drug problem or an alcohol problem, and you have to have an intervention for people who have problems, an external force acting on them to stop them from destructive behavior? But it's hard to help people that don't want to be helped. I just let them go on until they decide I'm ready to be helped. Because you really honestly can't help people until they are ready to be helped. And when they are ready to be helped, then you can help them. But an object in motion stays in motion unless an external force acts on it. And then an object at rest stays at rest. Like some folks will just sit around the house and they'll never go get a job unless an external force. Here's the operative word, force. An external force. There's certain people. Now here's the external force that you ought to be able to make to bring change in your own life, because it's us basically saying that your life is going to remain the same unless you do something. Unless you do something about it, your life is going to remain the same. Let me just remind you of this. Your life today, however your life is, you're happy today, if you've got money today, your life will remain, is determined 10 years down the road. 10 years down the road, your life is determined by the books that you read, by the people that you meet, and by the experiences that you have. Those three things. Unless you read something or meet somebody or experience something 10 years down the road, your life will be the same. If you don't have a cataclysmic encounter with somebody who comes into your life who loves you, with a God who moves as an external force to stop you on your road to complacency, because you allowed your last little success and you become satisfied with yesterday's success, that's the breeding ground for all mediocrity and ultimate failure in life. Because individuals are more in love with security of having a job than they are with pursuing opportunity. I mean, you get to a place where you've got to say, you know what, I'm sick and tired of just going to a 9 to 5 every day, having to deal, that I believe that, listen, and I pray that God will use me as a catalytic provocation in your life today. I want to be an irritant. Do you realize that when an oyster has an irritant to enter into the oyster, like a grain of sand, it forces the oyster to start producing these hormones. The hormones are what actually form the pearl on the inside. You'll never get your pearl until you get irritated. People will never see your real beauty until you've had something to enter into your life as an irritant. But I pray that I become just a tool in the hand of God to irritate you to change. All change begins with a decision, a decision. Remember decision? You ready for the etymologist to talk to you? D means off. CIS means to cut, Sean, the state of being. Decision, the state of cutting off. Every time you make a decision, you cut off other options. 28 years ago, I made a decision to marry one woman. She was a fine one. When I made that one decision to marry that one woman, I cut off the opportunity to be with any other woman. I've only known one woman all of the days of my life. I've had marvelous opportunity to be with other women, but because I made a decision to cut off, incision to cut in, circumcision to cut around. But I made a decision to cut some things off. There are certain things that will never change into your life until you cut some things and sometimes some people off. It's what you do differently that makes you different. You're not going to just be different just because you think you're cute. Try sending your picture to pay for your mortgage. See how far that goes. Put it in your next payment. Just put your... and seal your picture and send it in there and just tell them, you know, I'm cute. I'm all that. Yeah, I'm a dime. You're a dime that ain't worth a nickel. Here's my question to you. What's it going to take for you to have a wake-up call? What's it going to take for you to have a wake-up call? What is your defining moment going to look like in your life? What will it take for, will it take a major failure? Will it take a relationship breakup? Is it going to take the loss of a job? Is it going to take some type of traumatic illness? Is it going to take dire straits? Is it going to take a personal sense of rejection that has happened in your life? May I tell you something? Can I prophesy to you for just a moment? He said, Son of man, prophesy. Sometimes you don't live until you have somebody to speak with a prophetic voice into your life. May I say to you that we are not held back by the love that we didn't receive in the past, but by the love that we are not extending into the present. There's a love that God has given to you right now. It has nothing to do with the stuff you didn't get as a child. Extend the love into the present right now. This is where you need it now. It's the only time that you have to be able to exercise the love of God. But the defining moment is the thing that wakes up your purpose, that is latent in your life or dormant in your life. It's a defining moment that wakes that purpose up, that brings it to the forefront. And what external force is it going to take to wake you up to quit from being satisfied with something that pays the bill and starts moving you into something that fulfills you into your raison d'etre, your reason for being? Why am I here? If things are stable and steady, they will continue to be stable and steady according to Isaac Newton, unless they're acted on by some force. Stable and steady. And you know, for some people that's their goal in life, just to be stable and steady. But stable and steady, I don't care how you look at it, stable and steady is average. It's very mediocre. You're stable and steady because you never change elevations. You never change elevations, stable and steady. But if you're going to go up to a higher level, and God calls us to go up, every 10 years ought to be a mark of a change. But there has to be something that thrusts us out of just this goal of being slow and steady. It's never a place of stability. When I think of the word stable, you know, I think of a person who's in the hospital in stable condition. I don't call that thriving. It's just stable. To me, a stable is a place where an animal belongs. May I remind you that you are engineered with excellence and designed to grow. You're engineered with excellence. God engineered you with excellence, and He designed you to grow. And until you attempt something that you cannot do, you will never do all that you can do. The greatest sign that you have life in you is that something is growing. Your nails ought to be growing. Your hair ought to be growing. I say it ought to be growing. Call us at Bronner Brothers if you need your hair to grow. Oh, we can hook you up. And we can grow you some. In all of life, it ought to be growing. It ought to be grass grows. You have to keep cutting your grass, don't you? You have to keep cutting. The only reason that you see that stuff in your bathtubs because your cells are growing. They are multiplying. It's a sign of growth. It's a sign that you are alive. That you're alive, because all of life It's around growth. And so you were built not to just survive. You were built to thrive and to soar in life, to mount up with wings like eagles, to run and not be weary, to walk and not faint. And you know, in order to get answers, you got to have questions. You got to have questions. You've got to have questions. I don't know where a certain generation came, but you don't have a question God. You don't have a question God, you won't ever know what he knows. God knows things that he wants you to know. And you won't get it unless you're hungry. Blessed are those that do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. You've got, in order to get answers, you've got to have questions. I want to give you some questions. What does God call you to do? What does he call you to do? You need to ask yourself, till that question reverberates and resounds into your mind. I want you, as you leave here, asking yourself, what does he call you to do? What does God call me to do? What does God call me to do? What does he call me to do? Do you think that you're just placing the earth to inhale and exhale? You got to ask yourself, what does he call me to do? What has God called me to do? You come alive, you know, when you find that purpose out. Ask yourself this question: why was I born? Why was I born? Why? Why were you born? Why were you born? Just to take up space on the earth? Just to be one in a 7 billion? No, I think that you were uniquely and distinctly made. When God made you, he didn't make another one just like you. Nobody else has your thumbprint. Nobody else has your smell. That's why a bloodhound could sniff your clothes, and out of 7 other billion people on the planet, they could track you down because of your own personal funk. I mean, you are just that unique that your DNA molecules smell like no other person on the planet. Some of them, you know, people can locate you in a crowd. Some people ask the question, what does the world need? What the world needs are people who have come alive. You come alive because you discover your purpose. Don't ask what the world needs. The world doesn't even know what they need. They need somebody who has come alive. Steve Jobs didn't ask us, did we want an iPod or an iPhone? He didn't ask us that. He came alive. And out of his coming alive, the brilliance of his creativity produced something that we didn't even know that we wanted. Are you listening? Don't ask what the world wants. How many of you would have told him, I want an iPod, I want a device that can do? You never would have come up with it to be able to tell him what to produce for you. You don't ask people what they want. You come alive and give them what God has uniquely gifted in you. And if you've got that it, when they taste of what's in you, they will recognize it. You either have it or you don't. And sometimes it's just that you've been serving your it to the wrong crowd. You might need to find another geography, because these folks may not have a taste for your it, but these folks over here might love your it. There's some folks' music that won't even do well here in America. If you go to Asia, Europe, and they will just absolutely think that you were the best thing since sliced bread and iced tea. You have to find the people that have the cultivated taste for your it. But God never creates anything without purpose. Everything that God does, he does for purpose, with purpose, and on purpose. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a purpose. A roach that crawls around in your kitchen has a purpose. You know why? And listen, if you do not know the purpose of a thing, you will destroy it, because you don't know its purpose. A roach eats termites. Some of you have been smashing your pest control. Then you'll have a clean house, but then it's eaten down, and you open the door one day and it swings off the hinges because you took something out of its purpose. Let them be, let them be. No. Clean your kitchen, clean up your... Here's something that Rhonda Britton said. She said that when you heed the calling of your heart, you are following your purpose. Having purpose in your life gives you the courage to do the things that you were meant to do. You got to have courage to do the thing that you were meant to do to fulfill your purpose. Success is about adding value to yourself. Significance, which is your purpose, is about adding value to others. You become significant into your purpose where you really fulfill when you really help somebody outside of yourself. Dr. Bernie Siegel said that the more you serve others, the more fulfilled your life will be. And the question to you is, what problems were you designed to solve? What gives you your greatest sense of fulfillment? Ask yourself this question, because you've got to come to this thing about your purpose. If your fire goes out, it's because you're engaged in busy work to pay bills and not purpose. And you've got to also show what you are waiting on by showing what you're working on. Are you listening? Don't wait until the world is going to pay you full time to do it. You better start doing your stuff on the side. Keep your day job. Keep your day job. Do it on the side. Do it on the side. Do it on the side until it's able to fully support it. You know, take your time. Take your time. Use the wisdom of God. Don't quit your day job. Tell your neighbor, don't quit your day job. Don't quit your day job. Because they'll have expectations that are unrealistic, and then they be bombing off of you to pay their bill. You know, keep your day job. But you have to start working. See, you show what you're waiting on by showing what you're working on. Start putting your ideas on a journal. Start working on it. You know, you got to start doing what you're doing on a volunteer basis while nobody's even willing to pay you for it. Are you listening to me? I mean, what I do today, but you know, the first few years of my ministry, I didn't accept a dime. I didn't accept a dime of it, of income from that. I gave it all back to ministry because I wasn't doing it for the money. Still not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I'm called of God and I'm in my purpose. How are you called to make a difference in the world? You have to ask yourself this question. It'll help you direct you to your purpose. How are you called to make a difference in the world? And whose life are you meant to impact? Whose life? Start thinking about that. Whose life are you meant to impact? And here's a great question that'll give you a real wake-up call as to where you are. Who will miss you when you're gone? Who will miss you when you're gone? That'll tell you something about your current impact. Who will miss you when you're gone? But until you realize your purpose, you cannot engage your potential and stimulate your creativity in order to fulfill your destiny. Have you discovered your purpose for the current season of your life? I mean, that's just the question. Have you discovered that? Your life will be so much richer with meaning and purpose. And we should always live for a cause that is greater than ourselves. It was Voltaire that said, I know of no great men except those who have rendered great service to the human race. And you should endeavor in your life to write something worth reading or to do something worth writing about, one way or another. But your purpose is about the mission that is coupled with the goals and the values that are in your life. And I want to encourage you that you need to write a mission statement about your life, because that focuses your life on your purpose. And a personal mission statement addresses three questions. A personal mission statement addresses three questions. Number one, what is my life about? 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 Number two, what do I stand for? What do I stand for? When people see you, what do you stand for? When you think of Job, people immediately say the patience of Job. They think about patience. When they think about Abraham, they think about faith. They think about faith. There'll be one word that people will associate with your name. You might mean a whole lot of things, but when I call the name Tiger Woods, you'd immediately think of golf. Serena Williams, Venus, you think immediately about tennis. If I said Patti LaBelle, singing, and I know she knows how to cook, but we know her for her singing. There'll be a name. And so what do I stand for? And then thirdly, what action am I taking to live what my life is about and what I stand for? What action am I taking to live what my life is about and what I stand for? Ask yourself those three questions. What's my life about? What do I stand for? And what action am I taking to live what my life is about and what I stand for? And make sure to make your mission congruent with who you are. Congruent with who you are. Don't try to be somebody that you're not. Ask yourself, who is my mission field? Who is my mission field? What are the needs of my mission field? And then you examine and you clarify what you have to offer. And then you ask yourself, what is my plan? What's my plan? And who are my helpers? Who are my helpers? And what is my result? Because who I am matters eternally. What I am changes, but who I am matters eternally. Never allow the what to confuse the who. Never allow the what to confuse the who. Hiram Smith said that your personal mission in life is all your roles and values distilled into a sentence or two that describe what you want to be and accomplish in your life. It was Jacob that wrestled with an angel to try to find out, who am I and what am I called to do? He had no idea. It was Jabez who had a name that meant he who causes pain. And he says, I've got to be meant for more than just somebody who causes pain. May I remind you of the wonderful guy years ago by the name of Sir Alfred, who woke up one morning and sitting at his breakfast table, reading the paper. He was reading the obituaries, and he read his own obituary that had been printed by mistake. They thought he had died, and when in fact his brother had died. And he read his obituary, and he was not proud of what he read. In the middle of his life, sitting up over a cup of coffee at his breakfast table, there he was, and it said how this man, Sir Alfred, had been the discoverer of TNT dynamite. And it talked about the destruction that he had caused all over the world. How dynamite had destroyed so many things, so many people's lives, and wreaked havoc in various places around the world. And he wasn't proud of what had made him rich in his life and how he was being remembered as a result of it. And he made a decision that day. This was an external force that came and it changed his purpose in his life. And he said, this is not how I want to be remembered. It made him stop and ask the question, how do I want to be remembered? And in the middle of his life, he changed his destiny. And today we don't know him merely as Sir Alfred. His name is Sir Alfred Nobel, the discoverer of the Nobel Peace Prize. He is no longer known for the destruction that he caused through discovering dynamite. He's known for peace. You have the ability to change how you are remembered with a lofty purpose that even encourages other people to live a life of peace so that you respect humanity wherever you are. And whatever it is that you're dealing with in your life today, you have the ability to stop and say, my God, what am I called to do? When you find a young man or young woman who is driven by vision and purpose, their lives don't get off track into all kinds of aberrant misbehaviors, because where there is no vision of their purpose, people perish. Where there is no vision, people, another version says, cast off restraint. They have no discipline. They go wild because they're not giving themselves constructively to something. God put that energy in you and that creative mind, and if you're not working on positive purpose, you'll use it for something that is demonic and satanic, that is destructive in its behavior toward you and others. And that's why the best thing that you can do for yourself and a young person in your life is to be able to connect them with their God purpose. It's not they're living what you think that you want them to do. It's not that your children living out the things that you never got around to doing. It is finding the uniqueness in them. Train up a child in the way that he should go according to his natural bend, because so grows the twig, so grows the tree. And you've got to recognize their natural bend and see their giftings, their talents, their ability, their temperament, their personality, and say, you know what, here is a thing here that helps to shape your purpose, and get them in contact with God. Because Jeremiah 29:11 reminds us, God says, I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. But the first step in creating personal revival is to ask the purpose question. Why am I here? Every man, every woman is living a dry, dull, and insipid life, doing mundane, boring, routine things until they come alive in their purpose. God knows exactly why He created you. And He didn't create you to be just like anybody else, because if so, one of you is unnecessary. God created you on purpose, with purpose, for purpose. And until you tap into that purpose, the moment that you start operating in your purpose, something on the inside of you comes alive. And I challenge you today to have a hunger toward God, to say, God, why am I here? I know that I'm put here for more than just inhaling and exhaling and paying taxes and remaining whatever color you were born. You're here for divine purpose. You're not an accident. You're not just some protoplasm that just showed up out of the sea and took on form, morphing over ages of time. You were created as an intentional, divine creation of God, engineered for excellence, created on purpose, with purpose, and for purpose. You were placed in the earth to fill a need and to solve a problem, to be able to satisfy an appetite in people.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Join us again next time.